Right. People don't realize how brilliant Oscar Isaac's acting is, or accent work is, in Moon Knight. Okay, let me start off by saying spoilers for Moon Knight, episode 2, episode 1, don't care. Obviously, for people who watch that, especially if you're from outside the UK, you may have heard him, Stephen Grant slash Marc Spector slash whatever. He used patois in some of his speech, right? He was saying Wagwan at some point. He said yard at one point, and he said ends. Well, that's more. I'll get to it. That's not patois, but I'll get to it. Those words, for people who don't know, who live outside of the UK and they're watching this just as Marvel fans, the posh term for it is multicultural London English. And I say the posh term because there are people in other communities, Birmingham, Manchester, Leicester, I don't know, various places associated with minority communities, associated with working class, is a generational thing. Is new school slang that incorporates a lot of Jamaican patois, especially among other Afro-Caribbean kind of dialect, because of the influence that the Afro-Caribbean community have had over the generations. I think it goes back to at least possibly the 70s or 80s, the 80s and 90s for sure, because there are people of a certain generation who, before it was known in as a kind of subculture, they were probably using it, right? Some of our uncles, some of our aunties, for people watching who've grown up in places like London, Birmingham, Manchester, various other spots in the UK. But for people who don't know, again, the posh term is multicultural London English, but I repeat, don't use that term because people will laugh at you, or they'll probably roll their eyes, because the same way urban sounds like a nice person trying to say black shit, or chav shit, council estate shit, that's an inaccurate term. And also, like I said, people in London are not the only people who use that kind of slang. But it's great that he used that, and it makes Oscar Isaac's acting brilliant, because one, of course, Oscar's age, I think he's in his late 30s, maybe early 40s, but if he is, he looks good for his age. But I'm assuming Marc Spector slash Stephen Grant and the other personalities are like mid 30s, maybe early 30s at the youngest. So he's probably grown up. If he was a Londoner, as the Stephen Grant personality, he's probably grown up or invented a story where he's grown up hearing those terms. But it makes more sense in my mind that he uses it probably as a defense mechanism. Is a fight or flight thing. I bet you Stephen Grant, the same way that in episode 1, when Ethan Hawke was talking to him about, Avatar, this and that, and Amit, and the end of the world, and the blah blah blah, he started rambling because he got scared and he was shook. He was like, Avatar, yes, blue people, I love that movie, yes, the anime, Last Emperor. We know Stephen rambles when he's in fight or flight mode. He's fighting a giant invisible monster, and what does he do? He starts rambling all types of ends, yards, things, like he's watching flipping, I don't know, Link Up TV or something like that, Grime Daily, other channels, not on one, Channel U back in the day. You can tell he's the type of dude who does that. He's probably the type of dude who, if he lives in your neighborhood and you're on a pedal bike, like, to make sure that he doesn't get intimidated, he'll try and, or you can't intimidate him, he'll probably try and slang it up to be down with the kids, like, hey, wagwan, broski, how you doing? And then people will probably laugh it off and rob him, keep it real, if that was real life, in certain areas. But the point is that for him to put that thought into his accent is reinforcing why Stephen as a character would behave that way. Because to me, obviously, it sounded slightly out of place, but not completely. So it was natural, but at the same time, it informed the character Steven because it felt oddly, it felt like oddly out of place at the same time, but it was justifiable. And but however you interpret it, if it felt out of place, he's probably a guy who starts slanging it up again when he's in fight or flight mode, when he's as a defense mechanism, just same way he was rambling, talking about Avatar. Oh yeah, blue people, this and that. Or if you think it's a natural thing, then you're absolutely right too. Because, guys, all the haters that are hating on Oscar Isaac and his character acting, one, they're just people who can't get over the fact that people play different roles. All these British people who play Americans, when Americans get upset, we always dismiss them. But people don't like it when it happens to you, and it shows how tribal people are. But make no mistake, Oscar Isaac's accent is even better now, because I always had a suspicion that because of the role he's playing as Marc Spector / Stephen Grant / Moon Knight, his multiple personalities are trying to overcompensate for words that his subconscious can't naturally pronounce as the Stephen Grant personality. So again, for his character, it makes sense with the DID, you can argue. Also, it makes sense because Stephen Grant, depending on the background, spoiler alert, Mark's the original personality. Sorry. What do we know about Stephen Grant? Most likely, because he looks ethnically ambiguous, as Oscar Isaac does, he probably has immigrant parents. Like me, he's probably second generation. There are words that I have grown up as a Londoner using that other peers around me don't use in the same way. I grew up, this is going to sound like a random example, but it matters. I grew up, for example, saying the word cornflakes as cornflakes. Con without the R. Why? Because my mother would pronounce it that way. My West African mother, whose English is her second language, or third or fourth. She speaks several others. The point being, you can justify it in multiple ways, both as an actor and as the character he's playing in the show, why he's actually putting more thought into the accent work and the character work than you think he is. So all the haters, trust me, and all the lovers, trust me even more when I say Oscar Isaac's acting is even more brilliant than you think it is. And it makes me wonder, lastly, I wonder if this season is going to focus on the personalities of Steven and Mark, and that bond coming together in spite of the differences, because there's an advantage and disadvantage, right? Clearly, again, for people who don't know, spoilers, I've read Moon Knight comics. The Mr. Knight personality, the dude, the white suit version of Moon Knight, the fact that Steven suited up and it turned into Mr. Knight shows that Steven is the cerebral one. And then that's foreshadowing clearly in the future that Steven's going to be used by Mark or vice versa, or Khonshu's going to use them both interchangeably to suit specific needs of specific targets, missions, villains. Because you can. 2 heads are better than 1. 3 heads, technically. Multi-layered heads. That's a great thing. It's teasing how different personalities serve different needs and can aid Mark / Steven's quest even more than just one person. Because we've also established through episode 2, Ethan Hawke, Khonshu's had other servants in this universe. It's not just Mark. He's not completely mad. But another thing that I want to finish off on, the idea behind Oscar Isaac's acting as Mark and Steven and so on, and how that reinforces how brilliant the character choices in the show are. I wonder if Mark and Steven are the only personalities that are going to be shown in this season, and then Jake is going to be teased either at the end of this season of Moon Knight and come later, or he's gonna show up briefly at some point, or he's gonna show up in season 2 if they do a season 2, and it's gonna play into that accent work that will reinforce the multiple identities of Mark and Steven and so on, but also just the thought that Oscar Isaac has put into the different backgrounds of the actor, of the character, because this is really well done in my opinion. Yeah, I would love to see his process in how he thought things through. I'm obviously biased as a Londoner saying this, but I'd love to see the thought process. I wonder if in season 3, if he shows up as Jake Lockley, he maybe as a Latino, right? Maybe incorporates like a first generation, I don't know, Ecuadorian British cabbie driver, a black cab driver or Uber driver to make it more new school. Either way, that would be cool. And I wonder what form the suit would take then, because again, it's complementing his personality. The Mr. Knight, like kind of velvet suit with the gloves, complemented Stephen Grant's personality. The original dominant personality, Marc Spector, has the ceremonial country mummy robes, right? What would it look like when Jake is there? Are there other personalities that we haven't seen? Even I've only read some Moon Knight comics over the years. Even I don't know everything. I don't claim to. This is a great thought in my opinion, and there's a lot of assumptions I've made about this show that are still they've been confirmed to me in terms of the maturity, but in other ways I've been proven wrong about a lot of things, and those are just my thoughts about how smart this show really is, and people need to really like deep it and understand how smart the show really is, how great Oscar Isaac is in this role. So let me know your thoughts down below. Tell me likes, dislikes. Do you think Oscar Isaac put this much thought into his character acting as much as I do? Tell me down below. If not, like this video anyway, share it with your friends. Lastly, subscribe, don't be shy. Other than that, guys, signing off. Salute.